What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Review and Discussion for UnOrdinary episode 278. Now, this episode was, to be expected, a bit of a talking episode. The section we start off on took a lot less time than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be the whole episode's worth, but it's honestly something that I should have seen coming based on the information that we have about the world of UnOrdinary. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and get right to it. So, episode starts off with Arlo's interview with Dimitri, and he's automatically in, which Arlo is thrown off by and seemingly disturbed by, even telling himself that they should have tested his physical capabilities. Arlo meets with Dimitri. Dimitri is kind of an interesting choice design-wise. He has similar hair to like Dylan, it's nice and combed and everything, but I noticed his color scheme is reverse of Keon, actually. He has about like cool grayish hair and orange reddish eyes, which I thought was kind of an interesting choice. Probably a coincidence in all honesty, but I don't know. So, Arlo meets with the guy, and the guy just tells Arlo, like, yeah, you're in. Like, this is all just a formality. Like, we want you. Like, any department's going to be lucky to have you. So, yeah. And honestly, I really like that Arlo didn't just expect to be given this off the bat, and it seems like he did expect a fair interview. Valerie then calls him and congrats him, and he also confirms that he'll be starting next week. So the Soontai Arlo, that stuff is going to be happening. We are probably going to get a little bit of a few Arlo storylines before the season ends. But she catches a hold of his tone and asks what's wrong. He says that he is looking forward to the position like it's nothing. But she then tells him not to overthink it and that he's worked his whole life for this. And once again, just like in episode 274, we're seeing her trying to shape Arlo's way of thinking. She's trying to get him to stop thinking for himself and just trying to get him along the path that's been set for him, the expectation that she thinks he should have. So, yeah, just like in episode 204, when they were talking and he was like, I'm not really interested in King, like, raised dead and a student at my school like lost their ability. Like, I think there's more important things that I put my time and energy into. She said, no, don't do that. Just forget all about that noise. Just focus on yourself. Focus on your career. So, yeah, this kind of control that Uru's just dropping little hints that we see the amount that Valerie has over Arlo. It's interesting to see. So, Arlo leaves the building and we see Zeke, of all people, going in for an interview as well. Now, clearly, we know next to nothing about Zeke's family's status and everything, but I think that this is possible inference that he probably has some connections as well to the authorities with his family. Given how low his level is, he is barely above a level 4, though. I think it's possible that, his family may not be, as well connected or anything like Arlo and Valerie are. But I think it's possible that his family definitely holds some influence. Arlo sees him, and Arlo is really disappointed. He's just like, are you fucking kidding me? You've got to be joking. Now, is Zeke getting a position? They may turn him away completely. I feel like anyone would turn away Zeke completely because it seems like the authorities don't want power hungry people, because Zeke's kind of like a John if John grew up with power but was weaker. Zeke wants control, and it seems like the authorities doesn't really like people like that, or at least they don't like late bloomers who are like that. So I think anyone like Zeke, I think that would be a red flag for them as well. But a lot of people in chat were expecting that he would be that he could possibly join Ember if he does get a position, and if he gets his hand on the amplifier, he would be exactly even with Arlo's current level 6.3. That's really interesting. Could we see a Zeke versus Arlo showdown that's actually good? I don't know, like, whose defense would win? Would Zeke's attack be amped enough to be able to get through Arlo's barrier? So, yeah, that's honestly kind of an interesting theory. I don't think it's possible personally, but it would still be really cool. And anyone who does call that now, like, congrats to you if it does happen. But I kind of don't think that Zeke would. Just based on what we do know about the world of UnOrdinary, I think it'd be a bit weird for Zeke, of all people, to get a position. Cecile definitely would probably get a position in the authorities. Cecile doesn't give a shit about low tiers, but Cecile's not actively terrorizing people. She just doesn't care about them. So, so after that, we then cut to Kuyo's room at Wellston University. He's just working on his laptop and listening to a news broadcast of the missing person, the missing high tier student that Oren had killed. Kuyo then points out that a high tier would not disappear that easily, and he questions if it could be connected to who we know now as number 23, the assassin who attacked John and Serafina. So he then looks up, he goes to Wellston's website and he looks at the Wellston top 10, seeing that John and Sarah are the strongest students. He even mentions if they're stronger than Arlo, it shouldn't have been possible for them to lose. This is really cool, and honestly, again, something that I should have seen coming. Kuyo knows who Arlo is. Arlo was Ray's successor, so it makes sense that he would know who Arlo is. He met him at some point because Arlo had been a first year when Kuyo was still a fourth year at Wellston. So very interesting to see. You know, we're kind of seeing these bridges connect in more ways than one. I'll get to that at the end. So he scrolls further down and he sees nobody. He sees Blake. And he starts planning. He just says, like, this is a really interesting surprise. Caden then shows up with snacks and such, and they're about to start studying for a chemistry test that they have. And he thanks him for saving his cousin. Kuyo then asks how John and Sarah are doing, and Caden says that they're recovering, but he sees that Kuyo is looking at Sarah and John's student profiles. At first, I thought that Caden was gonna drop the ball on this, and, like, the whole thing was gonna be blown. But he plays it off smooth and cool, and he then just asks, like, dude, why are you creeping on my cousin? What the fuck, man? She's in high school, bro. This isn't cool. So, yeah. Caden played it off really cool. Kuyo then begins to question Caden about his cousin. Uru then points it in air quotes, probably insinuating that Kuyo is onto Caden. So, and Caden even admits that. He then points out that the two of them are the strongest students at Wellston, and he asks if Caden knew that they would be attacked and unable to defend themselves. Again, I thought Caden was going to, kind of break cover even the slightest bit, but he plays it off immediately well and just says, like, dude, like, we reported this to the authorities, which they didn't, and, like, just says, like, let them handle it. Like, you're not a cop, dude. And we know that Caden doesn't trust the authorities for shit. He knows that they're corrupt, just like the rest of them. So he plays it off immediately cool, and Kuyo backs off and they begin studying, but it does seem like he is still thinking. There is just a brief moment of just the ... but Kuyo's just immediately like, okay, like, fine, like, I'm sorry, I overstepped, like, let's get studying then. So, yeah, good job to Caden on that, but I think Kuyo is definitely still a little bit suspicious. So, the next day, at the safe house, Evie asks Dylan if she sees John and Sarah. And Ison, that bitch ass, just jokes that they've probably gone missing like the news has been reporting. Blake immediately just kind of like pushes him aside like, dude, what the hell is wrong with you? Don't joke like that. And again, like, that's kind of really fucked up about that Ison would do that, considering that, like, literally just a few weeks ago, they all almost died. They all almost got killed. So I don't think it's necessarily out of pocket for Ison, but it's just kind of like, dude, it is just a moment like, dude, what the hell's the matter with you? That's not okay. So yeah. Blake's just like, dude, what the hell's wrong with you? Don't joke like that. Remy then interjects and she mentions that Sarah told her that they just needed to handle a few things, but will be back pretty soon. So as they're leaving, school day ends, the trio are now leaving school grounds, and they begin to talk a little bit more about John and Sarah. Blake asks if Sarah mentioned anything else, but Remy just says no. They just said that they had some things to take care of. And Ison speculates that it's possible that they got dragged into more things with Spectre, and Blake, agrees. The final drop before the episode ends, though, Kuyo shows up to Wellston for Remy, quote unquote. He addresses her as Pinky. Now, again, I think this kind of leads credence to Kuyo and Rei did patch things up, and they were friends at the end of they were friends after a bit. I think this does kind of show that Kuyo has changed. Kuyo is, an actual hero. So, addresses her as Pinky, which is something that only Arlo has done in the past, and possibly Rei as well. But it's a nickname that Remy is known by a few select people. So I'm thinking maybe that Kuyo did chat with her a few times over video when Rei was calling home, or most likely I think it's also possible that Rei ran into her again at Rei's funeral when he had died at the time of his death. So I think next episode it's very likely that it's incredibly likely that we're gonna get that confirmation that Remy is familiar with who Kuyo is. And she's gonna be like, Kuyo, what do you oh my gosh, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be at school or something? So Remy and Kuyo knowing each other and being familiar with each other, I think is very possible. But before the chapter ends, we get one more drop, and it's Blake realizing that Kuyo is Ponytail, and he starts shitting bricks. He's just like, oh god. So yeah, that's where the episode ends. Yeah, it's honestly a really good episode. Like I've been saying, Uru has been killing it lately with these episodes. Things are moving at a pretty good pace, and the storylines are adding up. I mentioned earlier, a few weeks ago, I was curious if Uru was going to be including all the things that were in the season 2 part 2 poster. Remy and Blake becoming vigilantes again with Ison as their guy in the chair. Arlo joining the authorities, Sarah being a part of Spectre, and all of that. And it's happening. She's making it happen. So yeah, I also think that Kuyo is definitely taking Blake and Remy under his wing. I think that's going to be happening. They're going to start doing vigilante stuff with him. So yeah, honestly, I would give this episode a 8.4. It's a really good episode. Not the best in terms of news drops, but a lot of cool information that comes to light in this episode. And yeah, a lot of good character moments too, aside from that one Ison bit. That was just really weird in my opinion. But yeah, that will be it for this review and discussion. Kind of a short and simple one. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought about the episode down in the comments below. And yeah, as always, I cannot wait to see what is in store for episode 279. So as always, everybody, see you, Space Cowboy.